Interested in putting solar panels on your roof? Do you want the latest on Montana's renewable energy policies? The Montana Renewable Energy Association is a leading voice for renewable energy education and advocacy in Montana. From community-based clean energy events to advocating at the Montana legislature, they work to ensure Montana's future is powered by the sun, wind, and earth. Find out more about MREA and join as a member by visiting montanarenewables.org or calling 406-214-9405.
Everybody knows that high school sports generate suspense, excitement, and drama.
They also generate higher grade point averages, stronger work habits, and greater self-esteem.
Everybody knows that high school sports give us more value for our entertainment dollar.
They also give us leaders committed to strengthening communities right here in Montana. The true value of playing sports in school can't be measured in wins and losses or dollars and cents. Studies show that participation in sports, along with other extracurricular activities, is one of the best ways to teach leadership, cooperation, accountability, and other invaluable life skills. Don't just stand on the sidelines. Encourage the young people you know to get in the game. When you do, you'll be helping them get ahead in life. High school sports, a winning part of a complete education. This message presented by the Montana High School Association and the Montana Interscholastic Athletic Administrators Association.
Keep in mind, so does Domino's. We're delivering pizzas, pastas, and sandwiches till 2 a.m. or later. And our drivers are happy to deliver food while you're up late studying for your classes. So give us a call at 721-7610 on South Ave, 926-6411 on Reserve Street, or check us out online at Domino's.com.
During International Suicide Prevention Week, September 8th through 15th, River Pines Horse Sanctuary invites the public to Horses for Hope, emotional strength training as a suicide prevention strategy, a well-being journey through the way of the horse. This workshop is an opportunity to learn important suicide prevention concepts through horse grooming, an activity that is known to boost oxytocin levels in the brain, lowering blood pressure, and fostering social connection responses. A limited number of appointments are available. Call 406-304-6433 to schedule yours today.
It's 4 o'clock. Welcome to Montana's only statewide sports talk show. Broadcast on 102.9 ESPN Radio for Western Montana and across the state on SWX Television.
I like football!
Now, the 2017 Radio Sports Broadcaster of the Year on the show with back-to-back Montana Broadcaster Association awards for sports coverage and award-winning sports journalism. Here is Ryan Tutel and Colter Nuanez.
Everybody knows that high school sports generate suspense, excitement, and drama.
They also generate higher grade point averages, stronger work habits, and greater self-esteem.
Everybody knows that high school sports give us more value for our entertainment dollar.
They also give us leaders committed to strengthening communities right here in Montana. The true value of playing sports in school can't be measured in wins and losses or dollars and cents. Studies show that participation in sports, along with other extracurricular activities, is one of the best ways to teach leadership, cooperation, accountability, and other invaluable life skills. Don't just stand on the sidelines. Encourage the young people you know to get in the game. When you do, you'll be helping them get ahead in life. High school sports, a winning part of a complete education. This message presented by the Montana High School Association and the Montana Interscholastic Athletic Administrators Association.
Hello, Montana. As the adage of the ancient philosophers say, better late than never. It is Tutel Nuanez on 102.9 ESPN Radio. Outstanding to be with you on this Thursday afternoon. Hope you are having a wonderful day. We certainly are glad to be with you, broadcasting through the Kurtz Polaris studios. Kurtz Polaris is at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula, Highway 83 in Sealy, and online at kurtzpolaris.com. You can find us on the World Wide Web, 1029ESPN.com. There you can listen via the stream, live, all the time. The stream is there thanks to Opportunity Bank, your local bank, your opportunity. And if you'd like to call, you can do that as well. 329-1899, the phone number. 329-1899 is that phone number. All guests join us via the Rankage Brothers RV phone line. Colter and I are live on location today down at the Press Box. Come on down to the Press Box. Check out all the things they got going on. 3 levels of seating, TVs everywhere. Thursday night football about to get going. The Chicago Cubs, a nice 4-0 cushion in the top of the 7th over the San Diego Padres. Why do I know? Because it's on the television at the Press Box. Come on down, hang out with us, and enjoy a drink. Get yourself in to enter for our last pair of tickets to give away for this weekend's Grizzly-Oregon Duck football game. The Ducks and the Grizz, 48 hours away. A little more than that, the late window for the Grizz and the Ducks. So you can still register for that. We got one more pair of tickets to give away to you for the Grizzly Duck football game. So come on down to the Press Box, hang out with us for the afternoon. We will certainly be happy to do that. Let's take a look at what we got in the show today. Dalton Sneed, Sammy Akem. We're going to hear from a couple of Grizz players, the quarterback, and of course Sammy, the outstanding wide receiver for Montana. Colter got down to practice, heard from them. We will also hear from Coach Bobby Hauck today. We will have on the show here in about 45 minutes, Katie Duell, who is the executive director of and is running SpawnCon, Spontaneous Construction at Home Resource this weekend. So she's going to tell us all about that. And at the top of the hour, very excited to have Tyson Alger, former University of Montana journalism student, who is now the beat writer for The Athletic, covering none other than the Oregon Ducks. So a very nice crossover kind of guy to have, somebody from Alaska, trafficked through the University of Montana, and now covering Oregon in Eugene. So he certainly has plenty to say. He is the subject of our ESPN Roundtable. We will have a comparison of the states of Montana and Oregon today, which are better. We could do Montana and Illinois, although I don't think it's as close. I mean, I guess you got Chicago. That's pretty good, but that's kind of I don't know. I don't know if it extends beyond that. And we will get into a little bit about tonight's Thursday night football game. So plenty to get to in the show today. Happy to be with you on a Thursday afternoon, though. Colter, how are you, my man? Good to see you over there.
Doing fantastic. It's a little hot in the sun here, though, huh?
You are. I moved over here to the shade side a little bit.
This might be a mobile show. I might be dancing around.
There you go.
Playing my Bob Seger.
Well, your headphone wire is much larger than is your iPhone charging wire. You know what I mean? That's the mini wire.
Let's not talk about that.
So, in any case, Colter, let's talk about a few things today. We wanted to talk about the University of Montana and Oregon Ducks. Obviously, hearing Dalton Sneed and Sammy Akem, who we'll hear from in just a moment. But we had talked earlier this week and heard from Coach Hauck. And what's the litmus test for this game against Oregon? Winning. That is it. That is all, according to Coach Hauck. And that's fine. That's a good perspective to have if you're the coach and taking the guys in. What's your perspective, though, from the kids as you've talked to them?
They're confident, man. I mean, this is the story of the Grizz right now. We keep talking about the way that Bobby Hauck is navigating the season, the way he's navigating the media, the talking points that have been instilled in each and every one of his players.
Right.
But to me, I think that has a little bit greater meaning in terms of, number one, the fact that this team is getting so close to being on the same page, if they're not completely on the same page already. That's a key. That's like we talked about yesterday. It doesn't matter what the message is, as long as the message is the same.
As long as everybody buys in, everybody's in agreement about it,
But the number one thing, I said this in my season preview that I wrote on SkylineSportsMT.com coming into the season. I said I identified what I thought were the 4 key factors for the Grizz. And my 4th and most important factor was, can Bobby Hauck have his confidence matriculate into his team? And that's the impression I get from these guys now. You'll hear. These guys aren't intimidated by the matchup. It's not, hey, we're excited to go play on a Pac-12 school. We're just seeing what we can get. They're going in there to win. And I don't necessarily think that's foolish. It's much similar to fighting. I watched that great 30 for 30 Chasing Tyson last night about Evander Holyfield.
Yep.
And it's like Evander Holyfield said. They show all these clips of him saying, I'm not scared of Mike Tyson. I know when my time's going to come. And all the boxing analysts would say,
you're out of your mind.
You're crazy. Mike Tyson's killing everybody. How are you possibly saying you're going to beat Mike Tyson? And it's like Holyfield said years later. If you think you lost the fight before the fight starts, the fight's over. you already lost.
Right.
Bobby Hauck is trying to instill the opposite mentality in his team, and I think you hear that when you talk to the players.
Well, you went down and talked with Dalton Snead and Sammy Akem. Let's hear from the quarterback first. Dalton Snead, an open kind of conversation, a quick couple minutes with him talking about the team in general, the wide receiving core, and also, of course, playing the Oregon Ducks. Here you go, Montana Grizzly quarterback Dalton Snead.
First of all, I'm doing a story on the wide receivers and just sort of the way that the internal competition there has spurred those guys on. I know that Mitch Roberts really pushed Samari and vice versa. So what do you think just in general of the depth they have and the way that that's kind of made them all better?
Absolutely. I mean, competition breeds excellence. That's what they've done. They've all pushed each other. And, I mean, at the same time, it's such good, friendly competition because it's such a tight-knit group. And they just want to work and get better each and every day, and that's what they've been doing.
Marcus Knight had kind of a breakout game on Saturday night. What did you see out of his performance, and what do you think he brings specifically to the running backs room?
I would say him just trusting the offensive line and trusting his eyes. Coach Green says a lot, trust your eyes, and that's what he's doing. He was running to the right holes and just following his eyes. I mean, I know I keep saying that, and as easy as it sounds, you got to trust your eyes as the running back position, and that's what he's really been doing. And, I mean, he's been exploding for him.
The offensive line, they're rotating a lot of guys up there now. It seems like, I know Sy has been kind of the center guy, but the guards seem to be like there's 4 or 5 guys in the mix there. Does that change anything from the way you see things, and what have you thought of just the competition there up front?
No, not at all. I mean, whoever's in there is going to get the job done. I have full confidence in each and every one of them who's been in there. And with them transferring around and whatnot, definitely, like I said, just like with receivers, it's making competition, making them better every day.
When you think Oregon, what's the first thought that comes to your head?
Good football team.
They've risen so high in the last 10 years, not only because of their play on the field, but the branding and just the reputation and the flash, the jerseys and everything like that. As a guy that grew up in the Western United States, I mean, how do you not let that intimidate you?
I don't think I try not to get intimidated by anything.
Right.
You know, football's football. Field's still 100 yards long, but we're just looking to get out there and play.
You've had such a good year so far and such a good time here at Montana so far, but when you're measuring yourself against a guy like Justin Herbert, do you ever think about that? And does that help you rise your level of play when you are going against a guy that is probably going to be a first-round draft pick next year?
No, not at all. I focus on the offense and you know, what kind of defense they run. I'm not worried about, you know, who all's out there. I just want to get out there and run the offense and put points on the board.
When you look at Oregon's defense, what do you see?
They've got a lot of fast guys on the field and a lot of good athletes that can tackle well in space. So
schematically, do they do anything unique?
Not at all. No, they line up and play hard-nosed football.
Samari and Darian both said on Monday, excited for the opportunity. So how excited are you guys as a team to go play a Pac-12 opponent?
We're fired up. We're ready to get out there and compete.
So there you go. Dalton Snead at practice yesterday with the Grizzlies talking to Coulter. What comes to mind when you think about the Oregon Ducks? And it was about 3 seconds of silence, and then good football team. And there, what else are you supposed to say than that? But he did give a chuckle when you said, when you look at the defense, what do you see? And he just goes, man, they are fast, right? And it's Oregon, even with the calling card, Mario Cristobal with the offensive line in particular, but the lines in general being a point of emphasis, and him as a former offensive lineman, the speed is still what kills for the Oregon Ducks, isn't it?
Eastern Washington branded themselves as the high-flying offensive powerhouse of the Big Sky about 15 years ago, and then they've used that consistent identity to recruit to that same model over and over and over again. When Eastern really turned the corner the last 2 years defensively, so many people were surprised by that. I was not, because when you're recruiting at that high of a level, and then you're recruiting so many guys who are perimeter guys, there's so often when Eastern Washington would land a 3-star guy from Tacoma who's a receiver and a corner in college, or in high school, excuse me, and they have 5 All-American receivers, so this guy gets switched to defense. He's still a tremendous athlete. Simba Webster is a great example. His twin brother, Zuzi Webster, he couldn't break in the lineup. He becomes an all-Big Sky corner. You know, so that's a similar parallel to what happens at Oregon. I also think that the thing is that in the Pac-12, very few teams are built on defense now, although Washington State's really turned the corner defensively, and Utah is nasty on defense, and Washington is nasty on defense. So you have 3 teams that actually are winning a little bit more with defense than has been in the past in the Pac-12. But I do think that just because the league doesn't have a defensive identity doesn't mean they don't have crazy athletes. That's the thing that it's actually maybe the undersold part of it is that when you have to go guard USC's receivers, when you have to go guard Arizona State's spread or Arizona's spread option or, you know, Washington State's air raid, you have to recruit DBs in bunches. So therefore, your athletes on the perimeter are going to be tremendous, even if you don't have a defensive identity. And then when you play a team like Montana, you're just going to have the best athletes on the board. Troy Dye, who's about to be the all-time leading tackler in the history of Oregon football if he stays healthy this year, he's a 6'4", 225-pound inside linebacker. So he's got the height, the length, the speed, but not necessarily the mass. But I was reading a draft profile on him, and they were saying that he is actually what defensive coordinators in the NFL are beginning to covet, because everything in the NFL is so up-tempo, fast-paced. There's so much throwing now in the league. If you can have a guy that can play in a 3-4, for example, inside linebacker spot, and he can bump out and cover the slot as well as play in the box, that's the most coveted defensive guy in the league right now, is the guy who can play everything from inside linebacker, which is no longer the traditional position it once was, to even a hybrid nickel or a Sam.
Right.
And that's what Troy Dye is. So I think that when Montana's going out against this Oregon defense, Montana's wide receivers have an athletic advantage over almost everybody they're going to play this year. But this team has multiple high school All-Americans playing their defensive backfield. They have linebackers that are going to be faster than most DBs in the Big Sky. So it's just speed. That'll be the biggest challenge for Montana to try to combat.
We talked about, Coulter, before the show about who are the guys on the University of Montana that, can go maybe toe-to-toe, or who would be on equal footing at some level with some of the guys at Oregon. I mean, you talk about, obviously, a Dante Olson. He could play in the Pac-12, easily right now with what he's accomplished and what he's developed into as a linebacker. But another guy, if you're looking for somebody on the offense, Sammy Akem is the most Pac-12 top-level type of guy that the Montana Grizzlies have. Interesting that it's not an offensive lineman, it's not a tight end, it's a wide receiver who is the guy that maybe the best just pure skill position player, certainly for Montana, and maybe line up that same way going the other direction against some of the DVs from Oregon.
I mean, when you quickly skim Montana's roster, I think you could say that Gavin Robinson did play in the Pac-12 at Arizona, so he can play at this level.
Yeah.
I think that you could say that Justin Calhoun, I don't think Justin Calhoun would start at Oregon by any means, but Justin Calhoun could be on the roster at Oregon. He's a good enough athlete.
Really good athlete.
He could find a way to be on the 95-man for sure. Gabe Sulzer got plenty of Pac-12 looks coming out of high school. If he was 2 inches taller, he'd probably be playing at UW, even though he's at Montana. Mario Cristobal said in his press conference, he even gave it up to Samori Torre. He said, they have a receiver from Portland who we might have missed on. And I think that that's the case, too. Again, I don't think Sammy Akem or Samori Torre are going to go start at Oregon, but I don't think they're not going to be – they're going to be fighting to be in the rotation. I mean, they could be in the top 5, 6 maybe. Who knows? I mean, Dalton Sneak could be a guy that could be on the roster. So there's a couple guys that could play at that level. And I think that there's also – you can't undersell – sometimes even if you don't have the intangibles. Robbie Hauck is not a Pac-12 player in any shape or form. But he's not going to be overwhelmed in this game because Robbie Hauck's not scared of anybody.
Right.
And Robbie Hauck's 5'7". He's 5'7", 175 pounds or whatever he might be. And he's not going to be intimidated by the moment. He doesn't back down to anybody. So I think the more of those type of guys that are embracing the moment, the better. That's why Portland State Portland State against Washington State a couple years ago. That was the first time in a little while that a Big Sky team beat a ranked Power 5 team. And that Portland State team, I think the number one dynamic, well, they had two dynamics. First, they had a brand new head coach with a brand new offense and a brand new quarterback in Alex Caressa that no one had film on. But they also had just an array of FBS bounce downs who are sitting there thinking, well, we have played at this level, so let's go prove ourselves.
Right. That's
the one thing where when you're pounding on the table and saying, we're not going to lose the fight before the fight starts, we're here to win. I think the one part where that is a little bit tenuous, someone asked Samori Torre, do you think you guys have something to prove? And Bobby Hauck just said no.
Right.
I think that intangible element can actually help you in games like this.
Totally agree. Let's go hear from one more player, Sammy Akem. Again, an outstanding player and maybe the most Pac-12-esque type of athlete that Montana has offensively. Here's his conversation with Coulter from earlier this week at practice, asked initially about competition in the wide receiving corps and how much that has spurred him on to improve every single day.
feel like it helps us improve a lot because everybody knows that they're bringing their best every day. You know, you got to bring your best, and I mean, it's just competition. That's what we love. We play the sport for competition, so I mean, it drives everybody.
When you watch you guys practice, Coach Pease is just on you all the time about everything. So adjusted to his coaching style, what was that process like, and how much better have you guys gotten just because of how much he does push you?
I feel like it makes us thrive. I feel like it just makes us want to be better. I mean, if you know that even though you had a good play, there's always coaching to be done, and there's always somewhere where you can get better. I feel like that makes everybody better.
The chemistry that you guys have with Dalton Sneed right now, where does that come from, and how improved, how much better do you think it is than maybe a year ago?
It comes from hard work. I mean, just hard work. We worked so hard over the summer, run routes, PRPs, like so much work. We just put in so much work. We knew where we wanted to be by this time next year, and we just put in the work to achieve it.
What'd you think of Jerry's touchdown, his punt return touchdown?
Man, I told him it's been 2 long years. If anybody's been to a Grizz game, you know the best thing about going to a Grizz game is seeing Jerry Louis McGee run a punt return back, and just seeing him do that again it was just great. We all loved it.
Couldn't believe they kept kicking to him though, right?
Really? Like, I was like, man, they're kicking it to him again? Like, come on now. Because the first couple, it was like, oh, he might get one. And then he got it, and I was like, you guys are silly. You guys are silly.
There you go, Sammy Akem talking about the best thing about going to a Grizz game is watching JLM bring it back. He certainly did. And like he said, it's been 2 years since he actually took one to the house, even though he's been very close on multiple occasions. And, yeah, I think the confusion of why he got as many opportunities as he did was everybody shared, and if you're a Montana fan, shared with glee the fact that he kept getting looks into you could kind of hear Sammy Akem pause while he searched for the right word to use on record. Sure. And I think silly is a good word. Silly is a good word.
It's amazing how I'm glad the real Sammy Akem came back out in our ESPN radio is. So when he was sitting up there for the postseason press conference, you could tell he just got out of a 20-minute meeting with the head man saying, here's the talking points for the week. Do not mess this up. And Bobby Hauck, after that first press conference, stood up and said, Sammy, great job.
Good job.
A+ work. After Sammy Akem gave the same answer to every question that he was asked. It was great to have the real Sammy Akem back in the fold. One note we got to touch on, Gus, and I know we're getting up against it, and we will share an interview with Coach Hauck that I did before Wednesday's practice. But one thing that's worth noting, the Montana Grizzlies and the Oregon Ducks, the last time they played was in 1993. That game was significant because that game was a back-and-forth battle that Oregon gutted out and barely won, 35-30. That game had a couple very interesting ties. The first was that Don Reed was actually at Oregon before he was at Portland State, before he was at Montana, back in the 70s when Oregon was not much of anything. Like Robin Pflugrad said when he was on the show yesterday, former Montana head coach who's from Eugene, he said, when I was growing up in Eugene, the place where that fancy track is, the place where that indoor football stadium, the football practice facility is,
right.
Mud puddles. They were just mud puddles in a dirt field. That was it.
Right.
So it's changed a tremendous amount. But Don Reed had an extra initiative in that game because it was a place he had previously coached. But the other thing that happened in that game was Brett Wilberger was the starter in that game at quarterback. But when Montana was down 26-3, Don Reed decided to pull the trigger. Put in a little guy named Dave Dickinson. Mm-hmm. Dave Dickinson goes on to throw for, I'm looking at the old box score here. Dave Dickinson went 28 for 47 for 324 yards and 3 touchdowns in about 2.5 quarters of work in that game. And the legend is born. 11,000 yards and 2 million touchdown passes later, right. Dave Dickinson never relinquished the starting role for Montana, and that was the entry point to then what became the golden age of Montana football, and it happened in Eugene, Oregon.
Pretty remarkable. Good tie, Colter. That's good stuff. We'll take a quick break. We'll come back. We'll hear from Bobby Hauck, the head coach of the Grizzlies, of course. Colter's caught up with him before practice yesterday, so we'll hear his thoughts on this game and a more expansive interview right after this.
Katie O'Keefe's has been a neighborhood favorite in the corner of the Stevens Center for years. But if you haven't been into Katie's lately, come on in and make sure to turn left. The downstairs bar is completely remodeled with one of the biggest, best spaces anywhere in Missoula to watch games, play games, and hang out with all your friends. Katie O'Keefe's is your horse racing simulcast headquarters in Missoula. Come into Katie's and turn left for cribbage, darts, pool, and much, much more. Katie O'Keefe's, where the cocktails are always cold and the people are always friendly.
No matter how far you may go, there's always one just down the road. Down come, who pump it up. There's two things
things that can really stress a person out. That's hunger and not enough time. Town Pump can help you out with both. They've got your meal waiting for you. 4-piece chicken and JoJo's with ranch, only $5.99. And Modelo 12-pack cans, $11.99. Stop by Town Pump today.
Right down the road.
Hey folks, Ryan Tutel here, and I'm with Josh from the Advocates Injury Attorneys. Josh, if our listeners have been injured in an accident, how can you help?
We're here to help you after a car accident by negotiating with insurance companies, recovering lost wages if you have any, and even getting you into a rental car if you need one. Call us today for a free consultation, and we'll get started helping you right away.
If you need help, get a hold of the Advocates. Call Josh at 640-4444 or online at montanaadvocates.com. You deserve an advocate.
The biggest reason fall is the Desperados' favorite season of all, the return of those wonderfully spirited UM students, of course. Okay. So football is the real reason the Desperado gets pumped about fall, but you can't have college ball without college, right? So this season, the Desperado is bringing the best of both worlds together with live broadcast of Montana college football and all your favorite college football teams, along with Missoula's best hot wings and coldest beer. Fall has arrived, and there's more than one reason to celebrate at the Desperado Sports Tavern on South Russell across from the Y.
Soft Landing Missoula, along with sponsors Imagination Brewing Company and Sweet Peaks Ice Cream, is hosting Missoula's 3rd annual Welcoming Week. In tandem with thousands of other organizations and communities nationwide, Soft Landing hopes to inspire and celebrate welcoming all people to the Missoula community. Highlights of this year's week will include an Eritrean coffee ceremony, an international soccer match, and a Middle Eastern dessert pop-up sale. For more info and a full calendar of events, please visit softlandingmissoula.org.
This is Tom Skerritt for the Borgen Project. Each year, nearly 2 million children die from preventable diseases. Each day, 30,000 people die from hunger. 500 each hour are children. The Borgen Project is turning this around. We need your help. To learn more, go to BorgenProject.org. That's BORGEN project.org.
ESPN Missoula Sports Center.
Good afternoon, Ryan Tutel, Colton Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Sports Center. It's only week 3 of the high school football season, but crosstown rivalry action descends upon Missoula County Public Stadium already this Friday night. Missoula Hellgate and Missoula Big Sky each coming off victories last weekend, square off in the first Garden City rivalry game of the fall. The Knights won their first season opener for the first time since 2000, drilling Billings Skyview 39-0 last week. Big Sky also coming off a win. The Eagles outlasted number 5 Bozeman 21-18. Big Sky enters the game 1-1. Hellgate obviously 1-0. Missoula Sentinel, they make the trip north to Kalispell Flathead. Last season's runner-up in Class AA, the Spartans are 2-0.
In the latest Treasure State media poll conducted by our guy Anthony Knockreiner of KGEZ in Kalispell, Billings West number 1 for the second straight week. In Class AA, the defending state champs are 2-0 and have scored more than 40 points in each contest. Hamilton is number 1 for the second straight week in Class A after receiving all 19 first-place votes. And the Fairfield Eagles, the defending Class B state champs, they are also the unanimous number 1 pick this week. Fairview Warriors, they're unanimous in number 1 at Class C 8-man.
Western Montana teams in the Treasure State media poll in the West include Sentinel at number 4 and Frenchtown number 4 in Class A, Missoula Loyola 3 and B, and Frenchtown and Corvallis will play this weekend.
This ESPN Missoula Sports Center is brought to you by Aspen Sound.
Well, we heard what the players think. What does the coach think? It's Tutel and Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. Broadcasting from the press box this afternoon. Great to be down at the press box. We're going to be giving away tickets, the last pair of tickets to the Grizzly-Oregon Duck football game coming up here in just a little while. If you want to get your name in the hat, you can still do that. Come on down to the press box, grab yourself some food, something to drink, and put your name in the Widmer Brothers Brewing American Hefeweizen, the original giveaway for Grizz Oregon Ducks tickets. We're doing it right down here, the last one of the Tutel Nuanez Summer Tour. Great to be with you, broadcasting through the Kurtz Polaris studios. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway and Missoula Highway 83 in Sealy, and online at kurtzpolaris.com. Colter, we heard from Sammy Akem and Dalton Sneed in the last segment, but here in our Alpine Touch Grizz interview segment, let's hear from head coach Bobby Hauck, what he had to say to you. This is Colter Nuanez talking with Bobby on Wednesday before practice.
You mentioned after Saturday some of the offensive line competition that you guys are trying to continue to cultivate. How'd you like it after you watched the film, some of the guys that got in there? And is that a competition you think it can rage on all season?
Yeah, it'll keep going on. And I thought we played harder than we had for a while, so I thought it was good.
Josh Henry's a guy that played, he kind of broke out as a sophomore, and then last year I know he was solid, but it seems like he's really acclimating to that third safety role. Josh Sanders,
he was what?
It seems like he's really acclimating to that third safety role, and it seems like it gives him a chance to play a little bit more in the box. What do you like about his skill set, and what does he bring from that kind of rover spot he's playing?
Well, he's kind of the, in a 4-down lineman, he's kind of the nickel guy when we're in that. It's pretty natural for him. He's a good, strong safety, and he's got pretty good coverage skills, so he's doing a good job.
What'd you think of the hit he had down by the goal line?
Oh, that was a good shot. It was unfortunate the ball popped right into their tight end's hand, or we'd had we held him to a field goal, but it was a big stop down there. Been nice to get the turnover.
Seems like Bill Mamula's earned himself some more snaps. What have you seen out of him lately that's helped him kind of break in the rotation?
Well, Milt's a guy that's got good speed and gets off the ball well, maybe better than anybody else we have. So, he's obviously a young guy that has a lot of work to do, but he's doing some good things.
Nick Osmo got some carries early and late. So, as a true freshman, do you expect him as a guy that can continue to contribute for you guys?
Well, I hope so. He did a nice job last weekend, and it's like any other position, you're kind of where you are. So, moving forward, we'll see how things go, but I'm encouraged by Nick.
I remember covering Justin Herbert's older brother, Mitch, at Montana State, and I know his dad, Mark, ran track here at University of Montana. Did you have any crossover with Mark, or was he before or after your time? Do you know Mark at all?
I know Mark a little bit, not for a long time, but he was a great guy. Mark Herbert was a great guy.
Justin, the way he's developed, did you have him on your radar when you were at UNLV at all?
I don't think we had a shot at him, so, you worry about the guys you have a chance to recruit. He's an awfully good player.
The preparation overall this week, couple days into it, what have you thought of just the focus of the guys, and are they preparing how you'd want them to prepare at this point in the season?
I think this group's a focus group. They do a nice job. As we move through game week, the first couple weeks, it's been good, and I anticipate we'll continue that trend this week, and the guys will be ready to go Saturday.
There you go, Bobby Hauck talking about mostly actually about North Alabama with you, Colter, but saying the guys will be ready to go Saturday, and I think it'll be a fun game to watch. It's always fun to see what the atmosphere is going to be. You're going to be there live and in person. You're leaving tomorrow, Colter. You're going to go on the big drive, maybe split it up a little bit, get over there to Eugene, and then my goodness gracious, sitting there in Autzen Stadium. That's going to be nice. What I'm interested in is
don't worry though, I'll be on your radio airwaves tomorrow.
Oh yeah, you're going to be all over tomorrow on the show.
We got lots of different things planned.
Here's what I want to know. Two things. This is what I'm interested in from this game, aside from the game. One is I'm, as you know, a food connoisseur, and I want to know what the press box spread is because I'm big into comparing press box food.
You mean the press box at Autzen Stadium, not the press box where we currently are.
The press box food at the press box where we're at right now
is delicious.
It really is good.
It's great pizza, man. I think it has the most underrated pizzas in town.
No doubt.
If you're hungry right now, come down here. We'll buy you a beer. We'll get you some pizzas.
Absolutely. So come on down. We are at the press box, Colter and I, enjoying it, and the pizza is next level here. But the press box, the media press box, as it were, at the football games. I've been to a number of them, professional, big-time college, middle-level college, and I'm always interested to know what the food situation is. But I have not been to a Duck game yet, so I want to know what's Phil Knight hooking up the media folks with up there in Autzen Stadium. The other thing I'm interested in, and I don't know if there's a way to pay attention to this, but people may not realize this. Hawaii, I don't know who they play, but they're not playing in Hawaii. This is the last game of the day to kick off in the United States of America on Saturday night. 7:45 p.m. Pacific time. 10:45 p.m. kickoff on the East Coast, 8:45 across the great state of Montana. If you are keeping track at home, you add 1. That's how the thing works when you go Pacific time zone to Mountain time zone. But the last game to kick off gets a little bit more juice than the rest of the games, as they say, because some people trying to make up for maybe a tough day down at the sports books throughout the course of the day on their Saturday. And so the last game that has a line on it is the Grizzly Duck game kicking off at 7:45 Pacific time. So there's something to be said for being the nightcap, right? Some might say the headliner, right? The whole day of college football culminating to Grizzly Ducks on Saturday night. That's going to be a fun thing.
It will be a tremendous thing, and it will be good exposure for the University of Montana. And I think this is a chance for a couple Grizzlies that maybe have aspirations. I was thinking about this morning. There was an article in the Bozeman Daily Chronicle about Brock Coyle. Brock Coyle is a good friend of this show. He's been on with us many times.
Sure.
We recapped the end of his career with him on the ESPN Roundtable a couple of months back. If you want to find that, find it at SkylineSportsMT.com in a podcast form. But Trumaine Johnson is the only Grizz in the NFL right now. William Pales was cut. Mike Person, the only Montana State Bobcat in the NFL right now. Alex Singleton is on a practice squad. So only 3 guys from the Montana schools. That is the lowest number that I can remember in my 13 years doing this, and probably in the 21st century. There's some guys now in Montana that have actual real NFL aspirations. I told that story about Dalton Sneed and how the scouts were impressed with him. I'm not necessarily sure if he's a surefire NFL guy, but I think Dalton Sneed will probably be able to play football after this year, whether it's in the CFL or as a practice squad guy or a backup guy. But Dante Olson certainly has NFL aspirations. Maybe Jesse Sims. He definitely has the physical strength to do it. And I think that with another year and a half or so of development, Sammy Akem and Samari Torrey could both get there as well. And you never know about Jerry Lou McGee. He is tiny, but the vision is second to none. The spatial awareness, you can't teach the way that he can return punts. That is an instinct. That is a natural gift. And so we'll see. But what I'm saying is there's a couple guys that have a chance to like scouts at practice multiple times. When I always try to talk to the scouts, whether it's at a game or at practice, I think it's just fascinating. But the other day, a guy was there from the Chargers, and he's looking at Sammy Akem running extra wind sprints afterwards, and he's like, where's that guy from? Where's he a transfer from? I said, he's not a transfer. He said, well, who missed on him? Like, how did everybody miss on him? Why isn't he at any school?
Right.
And it used to be Montana wasn't just any school. Montana was a hotbed for NFL guys. If they can return to that, it will be very, very big for the program. But this is a chance for Sammy Akem, Samari Torrey, put themselves on the map a little early. It's a chance for Samari Torrey, who's from Portland, and Dante Olson, who's from Medford, to play against the Oregon Ducks, a team that they probably were very well aware of when they were kids. So it'll be a good individual test and a good team test. And it's just like we said when the Cats played Texas Tech. You're never going to play a team like Oregon again for the rest of your schedule. It's going to make everything else seem, for lack of a better word, slow. It's never going to be as fast as it is in Oregon. I think you just have to take advantage of that.
Stutel Nuanez, ESPN Radio, SWX Montana Television. We are at the press box downtown today, and this interview, Bobby Houck, brought to us by Alpine Touch. Coulter, Alpine Touch, it's always grilling season, buddy, especially when it's tailgate season, which it is right now across America. You're going out, you're getting some meats, maybe some vegetables. Look, maybe you're a vegan. Good for you. I'll bet you're very healthy. You still get Alpine Touch. You throw it on there, and you're going to have great tasting grilled veggies, which is one of my favorite things. You may not know that about me, Coulter. Give me some grilled veggies. I'm into it.
I do know that.
Okay, so, but it's got to have Alpine Touch, because if it doesn't, then it tastes like veggies, and then I'm out. So I don't want that. I want it to taste good. Give me Montana Special Spice.
So you take a little asparagus, take a little broccoli, take a little red peppers, cut it all up, put it in tin foil, drizzle with a little oil, a little all-purpose Alpine Touch, put it on the top shelf of your grill. Yum.
Done.
Now you have your veggies with your meat. You're already eating keto, and you're just in heaven. Use that Alpine Touch for the meats and the veggies. It's perfect. Get that 4 Big Sky Mountain flavors pack.
Yeah.
Do yourself a favor, because you can carry that around. You can take it to all your buddies' tailgates. You can take it all over the place. Alpine Touch, doing it right. For almost 60 years in Montana, locally owned and Montana-made. Alpine Touch, Montana's Special Spice.
Okay, we got a little bit of time here in this segment, and we wanted to make sure we had some space, because I don't know if groupie is too strong, but our good
he's
buddy.
a great friend of the show.
I'm not cute enough to be a groupie.
We're not cute enough to have him.
Cliff Cook, the head coach of the Missoula Bruins hockey team, here with us down at the press box. And Saturday is not just the Grizz-Oregon game. It's not just the Montana State-Western Illinois game. It is also the opener, which is a home opener of the hockey season. Hello, here we go. The Missoula Bruins welcoming Bozeman to the GIR on Saturday. Cliff, first of all, hello.
Hello.
Nice to see you.
I know it's been 2 weeks.
I know.
We missed you.
We missed you last week. But tell us about the game here on Saturday. Give the people the particulars, and let's just talk about your team a little bit as well.
Yeah, well, the particulars right off the bat. Puck drop, 7:05, and I would highly recommend everybody show up. We have a very, very special guest dropping the ceremonial first puck on Saturday night.
Cool.
Young Jack Barry. I don't know if everybody remembers the story of Jack.
Yes.
He's the young boy that sadly had diagnosed with cancer last summer. He's doing well. He's back in town.
And went to Boston,
went
right?
to Boston,
and
befriended the Patriots.
Patrick Chung?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he will be there Saturday night with us to drop the ceremonial first puck. We do another kind of fun thing up in the locker room. We have special guests come and announce the starting lineup to the players in the locker room.
Cool.
And so he'll do that. But no, besides the game, of course, we're really excited to have Jack back in town and part of this.
No, it is. That's a very cool thing, and if you don't know Jack's story, you can go check it out. But it made national news, ESPN, and the whole deal, and even in the Super Bowl,
that's right.
Patrick Chung is wearing Jack's wristband, which you got it
on right
here.
now. Yeah.
So very cool that he'll be there with you, and optimistic about him and his health here now is great.
Tell us about the way that this last month or so has gone, because this has been a whirlwind for you.
You
had the draft,
nuts.
and they had to get the players all housed, and then
this
the ice.
summer has been one of the craziest of my coaching career. But it's turned out well. Yeah, we had a bit of an issue with the ice, so we haven't been on the ice as much as we want. But the team came together. We talked about it last time. This time last year, we were struggling. We were 11 or 12 players. Well, we're at a full roster right now. We got 22, 23 guys coming in. Talented, hardworking guys. We're ready to go. Saturday's going to be an exciting day at Glacier, and we're really looking forward to getting Bozeman to town.
I'll put you on the spot here.
Boy.
But how many states and how many countries are represented on the Missoula Bruins hockey team this year?
We have, as of right now, and this may even change by tomorrow, but as of right now, we have 10 states.
Okay.
And I said on our Facebook page earlier we have 2 countries, but someone mentioned we actually have 3 if you count the United States. I guess they do have a point.
I would think you might include the U.S.
Especially when you're talking about hockey.
As
The kids from the United States are actually the foreigners, right?
We got two Canadians, one from Edmonton, one from Standoff, Alberta. And then, believe it or not, we have a young man from Sydney, Australia that'll be here probably in about a month or so. He's just having surgery as we speak.
No, I thought you had a Russian coming into play with you
We
this
thought
year.
we had a Russian come into, we've had Russians obviously the last few years, but we didn't quite get the Russian this year.
Okay, so Sydney, Australia, that's pretty good.
We figured we'd go with Australia, and we're excited about that. I have a bit of a family history there that people can go onto our Facebook and read about, but I know the young man's family well.
Cliff, I want to know this. What do you think took place in Standoff, Alberta, that it got the name Standoff? 'Cause my guess is it had to do with a moose. That's where my money lies.
I don't know. I will tell you this. Our 2 players from Alberta, it's a really neat story. They are both First Nations tribal. And I'm excited for these young men. They're talented players, great kids, and it's an opportunity that a lot of kids up there don't get. And I'm hoping we can open up some doors for players just like them moving forward.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Saturday, you got 1 game or 2 games?
Just one.
One on Saturday, 1 on Sunday.
No, it's a 1-game weekend. We're opening with 1 game Saturday. That's it, and then we're off to Gillette, Wyoming next weekend for our first rodeo of the year.
Okay. The whole, not just the home opener, the opener of the whole season is a home game for Missoula. It is Saturday. It's at 7 o'clock, the puck dropping. You can come on down anytime. There's going to be drinks. Obviously, Jack there doing the puck drop and a bunch of other activities, festivities surrounding the opener as well. So go check it out.
Sounds like a great place to pregame a little bit before you go watch the Grizz game.
There you go.
Right? You got 2 hours ahead, right?
Our billet families are hosting a tailgate party, so feel free to stop by. Bring BYOB
for
that. And then speaking of the Grizz game, I can confirm we will have the Grizz game on upstairs in the Bruins den during our game.
Okay.
Perfect.
So no excuses for not coming to our game Saturday night.
It's only going to overlap like a portion of the
I think it
third
starts about
period,
an
too.
hour after our.
It's like an hour and 45 minutes.
Hour and 45
actually.
minutes. The kick. The national anthem, etc., will be at 8:45 local time here, and 8:55 is when the kick is supposed to be. So you guys might almost be done.
Right? Yeah. Seriously, no excuses.
Let's go. Get to the Bruins game, have some beers before you go watch the Grizz somewhere.
Perfect.
Cliff, good luck. Thanks for being down here with us. We're looking forward to the season, all season, and we will be giving some tickets away throughout the year to Missoula Bruins hockey games. So make sure that you tune in to Two-Tail and Nuanez. Get yourself down there and enjoy some hockey this season.
We'll send you out on this. This is from back at the ranch.
Yes.
The town of Standoff was named after a historical event. Liver-Eating Johnson is his name. In the company of 2 other men, was headed north with a packed train of supplies, including whiskey, to trade with Canadian Native Americans, or I guess Canadian Indians in this sense. Whiskey was illegally traded with the Indians, and when U.S. Marshals got wind of the endeavor, he set out in a pursuit of the troop of cavalry to stop Liver-Eater Johnson and his party, held them off, so that's where the standoff occurred. They stood off the soldiers and proceeded on over the Belly River and named the fort Standoff.
You better find out if the player on your team from Standoff is aware of this series.
And you got to ask him if they have any relatives or anybody that knows Liver-Eating Johnson.
Well, his whole family's coming to town tonight, in fact, so they're going to be here for the home opener. So I'll have to talk to Talon and his family about that.
Missoula Bruins hockey is coming Saturday. Season starts. Such a good time of year. Cliff, appreciate it, man.
Thanks,
good
guys,
to see you.
as always.
We'll take a quick break. Katie Duell, she's the executive director of Home Resource, and SpawnCon is happening Saturday. We'll hear from her right after this. Alpine Touch has been part of the fabric of Montana for more than 60 years. Decades ago, Russell Street started selling his touch of magic in whitefish. Years later, Alpine Touch's all-purpose seasoning remains a favorite. It's tailgating season, and there's no better way to spice up your grill before a Grizz game than with Alpine Touch. Go to alpinetouch.com now and use the checkout code ESPN10 for a 10% discount on your order. Alpine Touch is here to keep your mouth watering all football season. Alpine Touch, Montana's special spice. Hey folks, Ryan Two-Tail here, and I'm with Josh of the Advocates Injury Attorneys. Josh, what are people left dealing with after an accident?
Well, quite a few things, actually. We see people that are in pain. They still need to get to work. They need to raise their kids, and now they have to take time to go see doctors and other healthcare providers. They're frustrated with working with the insurance companies and getting the runaround. We'll take on the burden of dealing with the insurance companies so you can get the best settlement possible and get back to your life.
Find your advocate online at montanaadvocates.com. There are a lot of lawyers. You deserve an advocate.
Now, the Montana Club's happy hour features BOGO beverages. Our expertly mixed cocktails, microbrews, domestics, and wine are buy one, get one free 7 days a week from 3 to 5:30. Stop in on Friday for Montini night. Sip on a top shelf martini for only $6, 5:30 to close. When you've worked hard all day and are ready to relax, the Montana Club has got you covered with BOGO happy hour 7 days a week, 3 to 5:30 on Brooks and North Reserve, Missoula.
Mark your calendar for the 4th annual Selway Armory tent sale. The lowest prices of the year on guns, ammunition, and accessories, and massive amounts of ammo to stock up for the entire year. September 13th and 14th in the Lolo Shopping Center parking lot on Highway 93. Tons of ammo, guns, and other items at below-cost blowout prices. September 13th and 14th, 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. on Friday and 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Saturday. The 4th annual Selway Armory tent sale at the Lolo Shopping Center, Highway 93. The Polaris factory authorized clearance is here. The world's best-selling off-road lineup is priced to move with financing as low as 3.99% and rebates up to $3,500. Live life wide open in a high-performance RZR. Tackle anything from mountains to mud holes on a legendary Sportsman ATV. Get more done with a hard-working Ranger or take on any task or trail in a versatile Polaris General. The best deals of the year are happening now. See Polaris.com or your Polaris dealer for rebates up to $3,500 and financing as low as 3.99% APR for 36 months during the Polaris factory authorized clearance. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula and Highway 83 in Sealy. Kurtz Polaris is now showcasing all of the new 2020 Polaris off-road vehicles to be the first to get a great deal on brand new state-of-the-art Polaris vehicles at Kurtz Polaris. Online at KurtzPolaris.com. Rebates valid in U.S. through 9/30/19 on new 2015 through 2019 vehicles. Financing offer valid valid on 2015 through 2020. Subject to credit approval. Offers vary by model. See dealer for details. Always wear a helmet. Never drink and ride.
Tutel and Nuanez on 102.9 ESPN Radio for Missoula.
Now they always say congratulations. Work so hard, forgot how to vacation.
It's a Thursday, and it's a good day. It's Tutel and Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio, SWX Montana Television. Colter and I live on location at the Press Box. Come on down to the Press Box downtown near the walking bridge. You know where it is. East Broadway, hanging out here for the afternoon, enjoying ourselves, and we're going to be pulling a ticket out here in just about 15 to 20 minutes from now for the last winner for the Oregon Duck Montana Grizzly tickets over there at Autzen Stadium in Eugene. We'll be pulling out the last name for that here coming up in a moment. But Colter, earlier on today, we were able to have Katie Duell in the studio. She is the executive director of
Home Resource.
You
Thank
almost
you.
got
Yeah,
it.
it's your wife's favorite place.
You know, my producer today told me, "Do you want notes?" And I was like, "No, I got this." And then I crashed the plane. The executive director of Home Resource, she's very, very sweet. Been in with us before. And SpawnCon, Spontaneous Construction, happening this Saturday down there at Home Resource all day. It is a big and fun event. She told us all about it. Here you go, our interview with Katie Duell. Happy now to welcome into the studio the executive director of Home Resource, one of the Missoula staples, I must say, Katie Duell with us. Katie, how are you? Nice to have you here.
Thanks. It's great to be here.
We have had you on in the past leading up to what is a pretty cool event, perhaps the hallmark event for Home Resource, Spontaneous Construction, SpawnCon, this Saturday. Tell us about it.
SpawnCon is our festival of creative reinvention, and this is the 15th year that we've had teams come out and be bold and brave and creative and compete to see what they can make. They get 7 hours. Any material they want in the store is free, with a few small exceptions. And they just have at it. At 4, they put their tools down. We have a team of judges come around and judge their items as to where they'll go next. They're all donated to Home Resource, and we auction them off to make money.
These last couple of years, the first 2 years I ever knew about SpawnCon, starting to work here, and our team from the trail made a sweet, I don't even know how to describe it, megaphone-looking, almost phonograph, old-school record player. It was super cool. But tell us, what are some of the other things that you've seen made over the years? I'm sure you've seen plenty of really cool things.
Oh, my gosh. There's so many amazing things. It's true. There was a great, huge barbecue that was made.
Nice.
That's what Ryan wants.
It's like a piece of art, but very functional barbecue. We've had an outdoor shower, lots of benches and barrels, and someone made an outdoor fire ring.
Wow.
Lots of art pieces, music pieces. People have made instruments. They've made music stools and stands.
And there's really no restriction, right? Because it can be both functional and artistic. It can be just artistic or sculpture kind of like, or it can be, hey, this is a really top-end usable item that we got here.
Absolutely, yes.
The point of Spontaneous Construction is, I think, pretty interesting because it's both material, I mean, physical and creative and all that, but also kind of symbolic, especially for a place like Missoula that's so sort of interested in recycling and reusing, which is exactly what Home Resource is all about.
That's right. It is. SpawnCon really demonstrates what you can do with these materials that people would otherwise throw away. And it shows that they have value. We always say that we're realizing the potential of people and materials at Home Resource, and that's exactly what these teams are coming out and doing for us. They're showing what amazing things you can make.
It's this Saturday, September 14th from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. at Home Resource, right on the premises there.
Right on the premises.
And you have 26 teams booked for 25 capacity. So you're like an airplane is what you're doing here. I see what's going on, Katie. You're making sure. But if somebody wanted one more team, you might be able to find, right? But what for people who are maybe not going to have a team or with this thing booked, what can people who are listening, know about this, and why would they want to come down?
Well, I will say everyone it's basically a spectator sport. May not sound like it, but we make it really easy for people to walk around and see what those teams are doing. And everyone who's come down, they come back year after year. It's so amazing to watch this transformation of materials. And the teams, I mean, they get stressed and they get busy and they're using tools, and there's kids and family teams and professional teams. And it's just, it's quite a mix. It's really fun. The energy is amazing. And then to see what they produce at the end.
Last couple of years, there's been such a spike in popularity, and HGTV, everybody wants to watch these shows about doing stuff.
Yeah.
This is very similar to that, right?
There's some idiots who are trying to flip campers out there. You know that?
Like this guy.
Yeah, that's a bad idea.
But have you guys seen an increase in traffic or creativity? Or I mean, I guess where does that fit in? Do people seem to come in there and say, "Hey, we got this idea from the show we watched"?
For sure. And we have as many people coming in for creative reuse, using items for things that maybe they weren't meant for, as we do people just in the DIY project. That is our zone. I will say there are other things for the spectators to do other than watch. So we have a whole bunch of activities. We call them our kids' activities, and then we qualify that it's kids of all ages.
Right.
Grown-ups who show up usually get pulled in. So we have spin art, paint a door. We have a home resourcesaurus, our resident dinosaur. We encourage people to help us decorate with odd items from the store.
That's good.
The White Hole, giant Jenga, Marble Run, Found Sound Studio, and lots of building blocks and a cornhole.
So even though, people are here, this thing is all day, okay, but there's plenty of activities for everybody that's there.
Absolutely.
And also food and drink, if I'm understanding correctly, right?
We have a couple food trucks, River City Eats, Two Crows Tacos, Big Dipper will be down there slinging ice cream.
Okay.
You bet. Big Sky Brewing will have beers, spiked seltzers, and water.
All the necessities.
All the necessities. And then there's music all day. Start with the DJ. Then we have a couple of youth string orchestras.
Yeah.
And then bands West Fork, New Old Future, and Straw Hat Riot.
Yeah, and you said this at the beginning. You had a very good, articulate name for it. Something that ended in festival.
Festival of Creative Reinvention.
Okay, started in festival, not ended. But it is exactly that. I mean, it's from the music to the food to the activities that aren't the actual SpawnCon contest that's happening, and then the contest itself to watch people create. It's funny because often when we see art, we see the finished product of it, but you don't often get to see or observe the process that takes place to create it. And sometimes that process can be quite dry, and maybe you wouldn't want to watch it. But other times like this, it's remarkable to see, right?
It is. We make it. Well, maybe we make it fun. I think the contestants make it fun. Is what's fair to say. And the activities, a lot of them are the same idea of using materials from the store, hollow core doors, and painting them or doing what you want with them.
This also, as you mentioned, becomes a fundraiser because the finished products become so interesting, usable, great for somebody that they're auctioned off in November, right? So tell us about the sort of next step of all of this.
Yeah, thanks. We have our annual banquet and benefit auction celebrating reuse, building community, and that's November 8th. And the items will be judged when they're done, and we'll decide which go to the live auction and which go to the silent auction. We have other things at that event as well, but it is a primary fundraiser for what we do. So our building materials reuse store is self-sustaining financially, but we do a whole bunch of other things in the community. We have an education program. We try to reduce waste in lots of ways, as you saw, including making sure that our garbage is sorted and separated at big events. And we hire people experiencing barriers to employment. So all of those programs require financial input from the community, and the auction is the primary way that people give to us so that we can continue those programs as well.
That's fantastic. Katie Duell joining us. She's the executive director of Home Resource, my wife's favorite place in Missoula. I can tell you. She's just made a trundle bed out of a door. That's what she's done. That's what my youngest child is sleeping on.
She's going to be a team next year.
Yes, she's a team unto herself. I can tell you. I can promise you on that. Tell the people again, maybe who haven't been into Home Resource, just the variety and the scope of the things that are there just on a day in, day out basis.
So this is a common question, and one of my favorite answers is we like to say that if you can find it, we have it. That's the scope. But really, anything you can think of, doors, hardwares, windows, cabinets, funny things come in all the time that you wouldn't expect. We have lighting and plumbing and yard and garden, lots of wood and lumber, obviously. But we get funny things like skis or sewing machines, and we try not to take things that really aren't building materials, but we often do, and people just snatch them up and do amazing things with them.
Last thing for you from me, but this is actually a contest, and you alluded to the fact that there's, kind of prize first, second, third, and that sort of thing. But does the judgment happen? Does the judging happen on the day? Judgment sounded very Old Testament. I gotta watch easy now. The judging, does it happen on the day? And what do the winners get? How does that work?
Yeah, that's a great question. We have a panel of 3 judges from the community, builders and artists and community members, and they do judge the items, and then they put them in a couple categories. So we have our grand prize contenders. Those are the items that go to the live auction, and then we'll announce the winners at the live auction from that group, the big winner. And then the silver circle goes to the silent auction. And then we have prizes for absolutely everyone who competes. Yeah, they're fun items donated by the community.
Spontaneous Construction, Saturday from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. at Home Resource. It is the 15th one, people. By now, you got to know about this thing. Go check it out. You swing in for a while, spend some time, get ready for Brewfest. The Grizz game isn't even until 8:45 p.m. on Saturday night, for crying out loud. You got nothing to do. You're just sitting there waiting around, twiddling your thumbs, trying to figure out what you're going to do to bide your time till the Montana game. This is what you do. You go down to SponCon. Katie, thanks so much for being here. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
There you go, Katie Duell. Great of her to come by and spend a little time with us. Hour number 1 in the books. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to have a round table discussion with our good friend from The Athletic, Tyson Alger. Tyson graduated from the University of Montana and is now writing for The Athletic, covering the University of Oregon. Well, wouldn't it be such a coincidence to have the Grizzlies and Oregon Ducks playing each other this weekend? We will have a roundtable with Tyson Alger right after this. Hey, if you haven't heard, HughesNet, they got everything you need for internet via satellite. Look up. It's a bird. It's a plane. It's satellite internet. That's right. High-speed internet delivered from a satellite right to where you live. When you're beyond the reach of cable and fiber internet, look up. Eagle Satellite is our community's authorized HughesNet retailer. With HughesNet, you have the fast speeds, unlimited data, and no hard data limits, as well as built-in Wi-Fi. Eagle Satellite has proudly helped our community get online for 39 years, and this year they want to help you get connected too. For a limited time, you can get free standard installation when you order HughesNet. Call Eagle Satellite at 406-728-9999 and see for yourself why HughesNet is America's #1 choice for satellite internet. That's Eagle Satellite at 406-728-9999. Eagle Satellite and HughesNet, proudly connecting our community. Back after this.
Hi there, it's Les Schwab Tires. You know, we've been helping keep folks safe on the road around here since 1952. That's why you can save up to $152 on a set of 4 select light truck and SUV tires during our fall tire sale. So swing by or book an appointment at leschwab.com. Les Schwab Tires, doing the right thing since 1952. Limited time offer while supplies last. Discount depends on tire size and type. Cannot be combined with other offers. Details at leschwab.com.
On Russell, across from the fairgrounds. If you're looking for a charming neighborhood hideaway, come into Katie O'Keefe's. Located in the corner of the Stevens Center, Katie's has an inviting atmosphere with ample parking in a location that's easy to get to and hard not to love. With drink specials every night of the week, including Tequila Tuesdays and Whiskey Wednesdays, offering $3 premium cocktails. Katie O'Keefe's is the welcoming, warm hangout you've been looking for. Come into Katie O'Keefe's, where the drinks are always cold and the people are always friendly.
This is Mike Nugent with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services. Berkshire Hathaway provides Western Montana with full-time real estate professionals for you whenever you need us. Our reputation as the state's most knowledgeable and available real estate group has helped build unmatched trust in the Garden City and statewide. If you have been thinking of making a real estate move in the short or long term, give me a call. No pressure, no expectations. Just professional opinions and service at whatever pace you are comfortable with. Give me, Mike Nugent, a call today, 531-1802. And remember, every question is good to ask.
Hey folks, Ryan Tutel here with Josh from The Advocates. If you've been in a car accident and need help dealing with the insurance company, you should give The Advocates a call.
It doesn't cost anything at all to call, and I'd be happy to talk with you about your situation. You don't want to have to be dealing with contacting the insurance companies and setting up your claim. We can do that for you from start to finish. We'll take the hassle out of the process so you can just focus on getting better.
There you go, folks. If you've been injured in an accident, give Josh a call, 640-4444, or online at montanaadvocates.com. There are a lot of lawyers, but you deserve an advocate.
The Montana Senior Medicare Patrol reminds seniors to never give out your personal information to an unsolicited caller. A Social Security impersonation scam is currently being reported across the state of Montana. Persons pretending to be Social Security Administration employees are making calls with the intent of stealing the victim's identity. If you suspect someone of impersonating the Social Security Administration, please call Montana Senior Medicare Patrol at 1-800-551-3191.
Have you been hurt or disabled? Are you missing time from work and not sure what to do? I'm attorney Chris Helmer, and Clark Fork Law Offices in Missoula is here to help. Our team specializes in worker compensation, personal injury, and Social Security disability. We fight for the benefits you deserve. Call Clark Fork Law at 728-0168 for a free consultation or visit clarkforklaw.com. Again, 728-0168.
ESPN Radio for Western Montana, KKVU HD3 Stevensville, and 102.9 FM on K275BS Missoula. ESPN Missoula Sports Center.
Good afternoon, Ryan Tutel, Colton Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Sports Center. It's only week 3 of the high school football season, but crosstown rivalry action descends upon Missoula County Public Stadium already this Friday night. Missoula Hellgate and Missoula Big Sky are each coming off victories last week, and they will square off in the first Garden City rivalry game of the fall. The Knights won their season opener for the first time since 2000, drilling Billings Skyview 39-0 last week. They are 1-0. Billings Big Sky is also coming off a win. The Eagles outlasted number 5 Bozeman in a 21-18 victory, and Big Sky is now 1-1. Missoula Sentinel also making the trip north to take on Kalispell Flathead. Last season's runner-up in Class AA, the Sentinel Spartans are 2-0 on the year.
Hey, there we go. Turn me up in the latest Treasure State media poll conducted by Anthony Knockreiner of KGEZ in Kalispell. Billings West, the number 1 team in Class AA for the second straight week. The defending state champions are 2-0 and have scored more than 40 points in each contest. Hamilton, number 1 in Class A for the second straight week after receiving 19 first-place votes. The Fairfield Eagles, who are the defending Class B state champions, they're the unanimous pick for number 1 in Class B. And the Fairview Warriors, also unanimous pick in Class C 8-man.
Western Montana teams in the Treasure State media poll include Sentinel at 4, Frenchtown at 4-A, and Missoula Loyal at number 3.
ESPN Sports Center is presented by Clark Fork Law.
It's a good day, but we got problems, people. The Chicago Cubs are up 4-0 on the San Diego Padres in the bottom of the 9th inning with 2 outs. Normally that would be a good thing for the Cubs, but as I said, the bases are loaded, and Manny Machado is at the plate, facing a 3-0 count. Good gracious, what do we got here? It is Tutel and Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. We are broadcasting live through the Kurtz Polaris studios. Kurtz Polaris is at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula, Highway 83 in Sealy, online at kurtzpolaris.com. You can find us online as well. Did you know that? 1029ESPN.com. There, you can listen live to the stream on the Listen Live tab. The stream brought to us by Opportunity Bank, your local bank, your opportunity. If you want to call, you can do that as well. 329-1899, 329-1899. All guests join us via the Rangich Brothers RV phone line. We are today live on location from the press box, and Coulter and I just about to pull names out of the hat. The press box at 835 East Broadway. We're right across from the walking bridge. You know where the press box is the official fan headquarters of Grizzly Athletics, and we are going to give you tickets to the Grizzly Oregon Duck football game coming up here in just about a half an hour. But first, it's time for our ESPN Roundtable presented by Paradise Falls and Coulter. This time we went and tracked down, actually you went and tracked down Tyson Alger, who is a writer for The Athletic. He is the beat writer for the Oregon Ducks of all teams, and guess what? Just so happens, went to school at the University of Montana, graduated in the journalism department, so he has obviously spent a lot of time at the University of Montana, knows what Montana football is all about, and now is covering the University of Oregon as well, and it was great to sit down and talk with him in an extended way.
Well chronicled. Hello, welcome into the ESPN. Hello, welcome into.
Okay, we'll set it up a little more. That's fine. The remote things, you got to be on the same page. It's like a quarterback and wide receiver. You know what I mean? I know how it is. But you were going to say what about him at the Chronicle?
I was just going to say it's well chronicled. The tumultuous nature of the newspaper industry.
Sure.
And that really shifted over the last, I would say, 10 or less years. We all sort of saw it coming, but it hadn't truly shifted when we were all in journalism school. So when I was in journalism school working at the Montana Kaimin, myself, Tyson Alger, Bill Lorem, Charles Pulliam, and Roman Stubbs, we all had big dreams of going on and working at the Washington Post. And by God, Roman Stubbs still is. So, kudos to him for sticking it out and getting a national beat in a national paper. It's pretty cool to see that. But, we refused to believe the doomsday that was maybe coming, and we grinded really hard when we were at the Montana Kaimin, and it's probably the most proud of any news organization I ever worked at, besides the thing that we're doing right now together.
Yeah.
And, we were just student journalists, but we were going toe-to-toe with the Missoulian, and we were going toe-to-toe with the paper statewide. That was back when the Kaimin was a daily, at least on the weekdays. So we were breaking scoops, and we were doing the whole thing. And so many of my friends that were journalism school kids at the University of Montana have gone into other paths. And if you get a great degree with the prestige that comes with a journalism degree from the University of Montana, you can pivot. You're set up well in your life because those professors are ruthless. They are hard. Carol Van Valkenburg's red pen, that was the thing I was the most scared of in my life because you get your paper back and it is covered in red marker. But all that said, all 5 of those guys I just named that we were on the Montana Kaimin staff together 2007, 2008, and then Tyson was a couple years younger, so he went on and continued to do it. But Tyson covers the Ducks for The Athletic. Bill Lorem covers the Los Angeles Lakers for The Athletic. Roman Stubbs is at the Washington Post. And lowly old Colter Nuanez sitting here at ESPN Radio at the press box. But either way, I am proud of every single one of those guys for continuing to hone their craft. And Tyson Alger is probably most remembered around Missoula for something kind of unfortunate. He was the student journalist that was covering Bobby Hauck at the Kaimin that got in the big spat with Bobby Hauck that caused the national controversy. And Tyson is a great journalist besides that. And it's evidenced by the fact that he covers one of the premier programs in college football at the most up-and-coming outlet in the country right now. So Tyson, I know, is a proud University of Montana alum, a guy that loves Missoula, loves Montana, and loves the craft of journalism. So I'm very proud of him for continuing to do what he's done.
Well, here you go. Tyson Alger, the subject of our ESPN Roundtable presented by Paradise Falls.
To the ESPN Roundtable presented by Paradise Falls in Missoula, coming to you September 10th. Less than a week away from Montana's game at the University of Oregon. This is a game that everybody around Missoula has heard a ton about here on Tutel Nuanez because we've been giving away a pair of tickets every week for 9 weeks straight leading up to this thing, presented by Woodmer Brothers Brewing, so we really appreciate them for being a part of this promotion. This week's ESPN Roundtable featuring Tyson Alger, a University of Montana alum who also is the beat writer for The Athletic covering the Oregon Ducks. Tyson, thanks so much for being with us today.
Hey, thanks for having me on, Colter. Long time.
Long time. I know. I've known Tyson forever. We worked at the Montana Kaimin together. Crazy to think that was 10-plus years ago, but Tyson was a grade younger than me, but he did a great job covering the University of Montana, actually covered Bobby Hauck's last 2 years at the Kaimin, and then full circle coming around, moving to Portland, working at the Oregonian, and now working at the Athletic. So tell us just a little bit about your path. When did you first start working at the Oregonians, and how many years have you been covering the Ducks now?
Yeah, so this is my 6th full season covering the Ducks. I kind of took a bit of a scenic route to get here after graduating from Montana in 2011. My first job out of school was I was the sports editor of the Garden Island newspaper in Kauai, Hawaii, which was a bit of a departure from Missoula and Alaska, where I grew up. But
sounds awful.
yeah. Well, see, turns out the thing though is 21-year-old journalists don't make a whole lot of money.
Right.
Granted, I'm finding out like 30-year-old journalists don't make a ton of money. But, and Hawaii's kind of expensive. But fortunately, while I was in college, I had interned at the Oregonian, and after about a year in Hawaii, I got a call about an opportunity up in Portland, and moved back to the States, and did about 2 years of covering high schools before finally talk about great timing. I got promoted to the Ducks beat right in 2014, right during Marcus Mariota's Heisman year and national title game appearance. So it's been quite the ride. But now I've really kind of settled in here over the last 6 years, and I've been with the Athletic for about the last 14 months or so. So really enjoying it.
Got to be one of the only guys to live in both Alaska and Hawaii before the age of 30, right?
Yeah, I like those states that aren't really on the map, kind of the fringe states. So
no one can ever get mad at you then for not coming to visit, because it's 10, 15, 20 hours away no matter what, right?
Here's the ignorance of people. I have a friend who thought, and she was a collegiate student adult, that Alaska and Hawaii were near each other because every map she's ever seen, they're right there together in the bottom left corner of the thing.
That's definitely one of the things Alaskans take pride in is our expert math knowledge. We're not good at a lot of things, but we definitely know where we are on the globe.
Yeah.
So we got that going for us.
No doubt.
Well, tell us a little bit about the Athletic, because I think people that know, and the Athletic has made such a big imprint on the media industry, sports media specifically. And I think it's great because it's very similar to what we do at Skyline Sports with a subscription model. And I think it definitely feeds the needs of the voracious fan, the people that want, the in-depth coverage on a daily basis, just right at their fingertips. But what's the opportunity been like for you, and what have you thought of the transition so far, and what do you just think of the overall vision of the Athletic in general?
Yeah, you kind of touched on it there a little bit with, with us being a subscription model, our number one priority is making sure that our readers, our fans are getting stuff that's worth reading and worth their subscription dollars. So, after spending 6, 7, 8 years in the newspaper industry and kind of experiencing where, unfortunately, that model has gone in certain places where it's become, a little bit more click-based heavy and kind of very hard to read some websites with all the ads that pop up. The Athletics' whole model is they went across the country and hired up a bunch of sports writers and told them to go write the best things they possibly can and take as much time they want doing it. So after kind of doing the daily grind at the Oregonian of having to write 20-some stories a week or so, I'm writing maybe like 4 or 5 now, but each one of those are ones that I'm actually able to invest time into. And hopefully, I think the readers have enjoyed it so far, just because it's a little bit more nuanced and less kind of I guess headline grabby. But I've certainly enjoyed it. And the nice thing about it too is if you subscribe, you get everything. And right now we have beat writers covering I think about 30 major college football programs. We have every professional sport covered. It's a really cool opportunity in a time where a lot of other newsrooms are unfortunately shrinking. We've just been expanding rapidly, so it's been fun to be a part of.
Tyson, it's interesting because going to the Athletic even 6 years ago is very different from what it is today. And I mean the growth that you've experienced and that website / company has experienced has been tremendous. But when you first arrived there, it must have been a little bit of a risk, right? Where you're sitting there going, okay, all of a sudden, the traditional sort of newspaper beat writing is obviously shifting, but is this the place that I want to land? There's plenty of places to go, but none of them necessarily, firmly footed or having, a full niche necessarily. What kind of led to your decision that, this is the place that I want to go to, and I believe that they are headed in the right direction in a very, very fluid sort of media scene that we have right now? Yeah,
there was definitely a little bit of a risk involved in that because, you're talking about a company that's still in its kind of infant stages of being what it is versus, when I was at the Oregonian had been around there for, 100-plus years. But there was also risk in staying kind of in the news industry. Unfortunately, because of the kind of the time we live in, during the 6 years I was at the Oregonian, I experienced probably 6 or 7 rounds of layoffs. The staff of 200 or so riders that I came in with is a small fraction of that now. So, I think all of us in this industry can appreciate the fact there's not really great job stability anywhere. So, going to The Athletic, a company that's rapidly expanding right now and putting money in the product, I mean, it was a risk because it was new, but, even over the last year since I've joined, we've probably added another 100 or so riders, and we just expanded into Europe. And, it was just really kind of that opportunity to be a part of something that was growing and that would just kind of like give us the freedom to do what we wanted, which has been kind of all I've ever wanted.
Tyson Alger, University of Montana alum, Oregon Ducks beat writer for The Athletic, joining us on this week's ESPN Roundtable. Let's talk some football. You mentioned your first year on the Oregon beat, a tremendous year. Marcus Mariota winning the 2014 Heisman, Oregon riding high at that moment. And since then, it's been a little bit of a tumultuous time in Eugene. I know that Mark Helfrich hit kind of a peak and then basically was forced out, and then Willie Taggart there for a blink of an eye, less than a year. And now Mario Cristobal takes over as the head coach. He's into his second year. So what's it been like just watching sort of the roller coaster that's been the Oregon program? And what do you think of the fit of Cristobal as the head coach?
Yeah, it's one of those things where, if you're covering a team, you either want one of two things. You either want the team to be really good, which they were during my first year. And granted, even in 2015, I thought if Vernon Adams wouldn't have broke his finger in that first game against Eastern Washington, I think the Ducks probably would have returned to the playoff that year. So those 2 years, they were really good. And then the contrast is if they're not going to be really good, you kind of want it to be really bad because then there's a lot of storylines. The most boring season is 6-6. So, that Helfrich 2016 year where they went 4-8, I thought that was kind of a quick trigger to pull for a guy that had just led your team to a national title appearance 2 years prior. But, it was just one of those things where once the ball got moving downhill, it was moving quickly and they were doing bad on the recruiting trail. So then they took a chance by bringing in Willie Taggart, and then he left them about 4 days before the bowl game at the end of his first season. So then they brought in Cristobal, and he's an interesting fit here because he's completely different than the prototypical Oregon that I think a lot of people associate Oregon as, of being kind of like that stylish, flashy, quick, all those sorts of things. Cristobal was the offensive lineman at Miami. He won a national championship there. Oregon hired him from Alabama, where he was the team's offensive line coach, and he's really kind of tried to turn Oregon into a Northwest version of an SEC team, really kind of focusing in on the trenches and building up an offensive line, which the Ducks have probably one of the best ones in the country right now, and really kind of beefing up that defensive line too. So this is kind of a gritty, grounded out, physical type of football team that I think a lot of people maybe don't think Oregon has from their memories earlier in this decade or so.
Yeah, well, that is interesting too, because Chip Kelly really, right, the one who put Oregon on the modern map, and when that combined with they're the first team to have all these jerseys and do all that, and there was the flash of the Oregon Ducks going back, but that has always been associated basically with speed. I mean, in a word, with speed, both in terms of the number of plays that you're trying to run and in terms of the skill athletes, and that Cristobal seems like he has instilled an edge. And Bobby Hauck, the Montana head coach, talked this week pretty straightforwardly about how great they are up front, especially on the offensive line. So when you look at a Montana team coming in this week, look, I mean, I'm not sitting here wanting a prediction or something like that, but what do people not appreciate about what a top-level national FBS offensive line is and can be compared to, a very good but nonetheless 63 scholarship FCS team?
It's just amazing, not only the size but athleticism that a lot of these guys have. Like if you take Oregon's left tackle Penei Sewell, for example, he was the first last year. He won the starting job out of camp, and he was the first Oregon player to start at left tackle as a true freshman since 1999. And I thought he was the best. I thought before he got hurt midway through the year last year, he was the best offensive lineman on the team, and that includes two guys who were in Shane Lemieux and Calvin Throckmorton, who are preseason All-Americans this year. It's just they have that depth, and these guys are insanely strong, but they can move as well, and they don't just block in that first level. They get up, and man, against Nevada and even Auburn, Sewell was just knocking around the linebackers left and right too. So they're aggressive, and they can come at you in waves, because if you look at Oregon's first group, which includes 4 starters, or all 5 members of Oregon's offensive line were starters last year. And then if you look at their 2 deep, they have like 2 or 3 guys who are 350, 360 pounds that can move. They can just keep coming at you, and they can just really bully a lesser quality, or just a team with less depth off the ball. And, that's something that I kind of expect Oregon to assert themselves with this week is, the one thing that hasn't really clicked 100% yet has just been a consistent ground game. They did rush for like 220 yards last week against Nevada, but 70 of those came on a Darian Felix scamper in the final minute. So I kind of look to them to really go behind that offensive line and kind of bully up a team that, no disrespect to Montana, I love the Grizz went there, but it's just a different quality of depth that between a top level FBS and a FCS opponent, the team.
It's so interesting just looking at just the starts and the prestige and all the accolades, like you mentioned. Penei Sewell, he was a true freshman last year, but maybe their best offensive lineman. But then they have 3 different other guys that have 38 plus career starts. I think they have 2 guys that are working on 40 plus start streaks in a row. And then the guy that maybe is a little bit forgotten, Dallas Warmack, he's a transfer from Alabama who started all 13 games last fall. So they're definitely stacked on the offensive line. And Bobby Hauck talked about it extensively in his press conference on Monday, said that this is the best Oregon offensive line he's ever seen. He said that he read a stat that this is the most experienced offensive line in college football in the last 15 years. I don't know if that's a completely accurate stat, but it sounds like with that many consecutive starts, it's the case. I want to ask you this, though, Tyson. You mentioned they haven't really got the consistent run game going quite yet. Is that just a product of having a future NFL draft pick like Justin Herbert at quarterback?
Not necessarily. Even though they do have Herbert at quarterback, who, depending on who you read, it could be anywhere from a first-round pick to the number 1 pick. This is still a team that kind of really wants to make its bacon on the ground, and it's the first game of the season was tough against Stanford because Oregon does have that offensive line. I'm sorry, not Stanford, Auburn. Oregon does have that offensive line, but Auburn's front 7 has 3 first-round picks on it, so that was a pretty tough game there. Oregon had such a good running game for such a long time. I believe they led the Pac-12 for like 12 straight years in rushing yards. And the 2 guys they have right now, in CJ Verdell and Travis Dye, both sophomores, they're both good running backs. They combined for like 1,700 yards last year, but they're just not quite that dominant level of Oregon running back that you used to see, like a little Michael James or Kenyon Barner or Royce Freeman, those types. So I think they're still kind of feeling out a little bit of just what they're going to get out of those 2 guys behind this line this year. And I sometimes wish they would open it up a little bit more with Herbert just because of his experience. I mean, he's been starting for 3+ years now, and he has all that talent. But this is a team that is down 3 of its top 4 wide receivers right now, so teams have been really able to key in on the run. That's what Auburn was doing against the Ducks. They were dropping a safety down in the box and really just kind of stacking it. And, it'll be interesting to see what those guys can do this week against Montana.
We're joined by University of Montana alum Tyson Alger, who covers the Oregon Ducks for The Athletic, leading up to this Montana at Oregon matchup. And we talked a lot about just the specifics of Oregon's offense, from the offensive line to the running backs to Justin Herbert, the potential All-American quarterback, future NFL draft pick. But I want to ask you just about the general culture of the program. Mario Cristobal, you mentioned him. He's a guy that won 2 national championships as a player at Miami as an offensive lineman, one of the most revered offensive line coaches in the country, coached at Miami, coached at Alabama, coached at Oregon on the offensive line before taking over as the head coach there a couple years back when Willie Taggart bolted for Florida State. But Cristobal, everything I've ever heard from him and everything I've ever watched of him, seems like a really intense, tough-minded guy. What sort of differences do you notice? Because when you went from Chip Kelly to Mark Helfrich, that's a pretty seamless transition. Those guys have similar, at least schematic styles. What's different about Cristobal, both schematically and just in culture, Tyson?
Yeah, it's kind of night and day difference. You know, Helfrich and Kelly were both kind of more the cerebral type. The you know, more often than not, they were the smartest guys in the room, and you know, they probably thought that too. Cristobal is much more of a physical, in your face, kind of old school type of football. He has a lot of confidence and bravado, and I say that in the sense of he's never disrespectful to his opponents, but they just kind of exude a high level, or they expect a high level of play from their team, and it really kind of reflects on the field. You know, as you mentioned, you know, he's an offensive line guy. That's still his baby, even though he's not directly in charge of the line now. But this is a team that they want to play physical. They want to still be able to have, you know, it's still Oregon, so there's still some of that flash. They still have the uniforms, and they still want. They know that this fan base wants to have some fast skill players out, you know, out wide and stuff. But this is a team that's really slowed down its pace. They want to be able to contend with and be able to, you know, out physical most of the teams here in the Pac-12. It's a lot closer to like the way Stanford plays now, or Stanford played earlier in this decade than what Oregon definitely was. But you know, that the one thing that we haven't quite seen yet, though, is kind of like the true, I guess, like the true vision of this offense under Cristobal. Just because last year their number one tight end, Cam McCormick, he played I think 2 quarters all season. He's by far their best run blocker, and they would like to run both him and the senior tight end Jacob Breland. They'd like to kind of use them as, you know, 2 tight end sets in just about every formation, but they've just had a lot of health problems with those two. So, you know, this is still a program that's still, I wouldn't say they're searching for their identity. I just don't think they've completely realized it quite yet, which might be kind of daunting when you consider that they are playing at a pretty high level of football right now.
Tyson, what's Mario Cristobal like just in terms of his just sort of presence and your interactions and time that you've spent with him?
He's very intense. You know, I think he gets, he complains about having to sleep. You know,
say no more. That's everything that we ever needed to know about the man right there.
This is so funny because we were driving in the car yesterday, and when Mario Cristobal was the head coach at Florida International, Tim Cramsey was the offensive coordinator the last 2 years there. Then he landed at Montana State, and I got to know Cramsey pretty well. And Cramsey would always talk about how Cristobal would stay up for 2-3 days at a time. He said he would be up for 72 hours sometimes, and he would never want to sleep.
Yeah, the thing is too is it's like that in the off season as well, because you know you know we're talking about a lot of what we see on the field this year, but this staff is really really turned this program around on the recruiting trail. You know, I think Cristobal was named I think he was recruiter of the year at Alabama, and that's kind of really what that was at least 50% of his resume coming into this Oregon job, is just how good he's been on the recruiting front. And so those guys are, you know, in season, out of season, they're working the phones, they're working their maps and all that all the time, and it's pretty insane the work ethic that these guys have. And you know, obviously they're compensated well for that. But I mean, I don't think I've ever been at the Oregon facility when he hasn't been there. It's just all day, every day. That's what they kind of eat, sleep, and drink. And you know, that's no different than, you know, those guys at Montana. It's just at a under probably a little bit of a larger microscope here with some of the national media and such.
Tyson, let's go to a player on the team or two here and just highlight for you a couple of guys who you really like, whether that's because they have great personal stories or just great fun to be around, or even from a football standpoint. But who's a guy or two that you know when you go into the facility that you're like, hey man, I can't wait to talk to this kid?
Oh man, that's a really good one. Well, actually, one of them is a guy who's not going to play in this game, and that's kind of a break Montana catches. But Micah Pittman was this 4-star freshman out of Calabasas High School. He's the son of Michael Pittman Sr., who was most notable for having just those massive guns on his arms while playing running back at Tampa Bay. And he was a kid that Oregon thought was going to play a major role for them this year, because you know the one big problem the Ducks had last year is they led the nation with 52 drop passes, and you know, Herbert still put up pretty good stats last year, but they could have been monstrous if had, you know, guys actually held onto the football. So this Pittman kid's been awesome to talk to, because he's mature in the game of football because of his family, and his brother is you know, a preseason Pac-12 selection at USC, but he's just an electric player and fun to talk to. And unfortunately, Montana fans, maybe fortunately, Montana fans won't be able to see him play in this game. But on the defensive end of the football, nose tackle Jordan Scott, I forget how tall he is, but when he came into camp as a freshman, he's a junior now, I think he was like 380 pounds. And he's not like 6'5" or anything. He's probably like 6 foot, 6'1". I mean, this guy was just a freaking tank. And what's been impressive to see with him over the years is he's always kind of had that athleticism. You know, Oregon probably wouldn't have recruited this kid if he couldn't move, but like, just the way he moves and carries himself on the field while shedding, a little bit of weight. I think he's probably at like 340 now or so, maybe 330. But just a fun kid to talk to. That's one of the things that I like about covering this Oregon team is their kind of recruiting reach is so widespread that, Jordan Scott here is from Florida. They have a lot of kids from California. They're really kind of hitting the kind of the South SEC footprint a lot more. And I'm trying to think if there's any Montana kids on this roster. I don't think there is, which is unfortunate.
I think the last Montana kid on the Oregon roster was Cody Carringer from Butte, maybe half a dozen years ago. But there's been a couple, but definitely I don't think there is any this year, like you said, because they have such a national recruiting reach. I want to ask you about the Troy Dye kid. He's the inside linebacker at Oregon, and looking at his numbers, they're ridiculous. He's already got 325-plus tackles. I think he entered his senior year 121 tackles away from becoming the all-time leader in Oregon history. 6'4", 227 pounds, looks like a great athlete. What's the scout on this guy?
I'm actually glad you brought him up because I had a complete brain fart. Troy Dye is my favorite player to talk to on this defense. And it's been funny watching his evolution because when he came in as a freshman and he started right away at inside linebacker as a freshman, and that was a part of that 2016 Oregon defense that was one of the worst in program history. And he's just gotten better and better and better each year. And this year he's been kind of shot out of a cannon. I'm not quite sure how he projects at the NFL level because he's kind of a tweener size-wise between kind of a linebacker and maybe a thicker secondary type of player. But at the college level, he's just dominant. He flies to the football, and he has a lot of fun on the sidelines, too. I'm sure if you guys saw any pictures or videos from this last game, in between the third and fourth quarter, the Autzen Stadium, they play Shout from I'm having a brain fart on the movie. From Animal House. And the Ducks were up by like 60 points at this time, and Dye's sitting essentially on the 25-yard line dancing in front of the whole stadium and just getting the place jacked. And so he's kind of on his don't give a whatever tour right now here as a senior, and he's having a lot of fun, and he's definitely the most probably one of the most experienced and just decorated players in the Pac-12 right now. With I think he's on pace right now to break Oregon's all-time career tackles mark. I think he needed to have like 110 coming into the year, and I mean after 2 games, he's well on that pace. So he's definitely a guy to contend with.
Tyson Alger, Oregon Ducks beat writer for The Athletic and a University of Montana alum, joining us on this week's ESPN Roundtable. Tyson, you covered the Grizz during a time when the Grizz were at an all-time high, and then a little bit where the sort of the downfall began. But the heights that the Montana program reached. A 2-part question. First of all, what do people out in Eugene think of this matchup with the number 15 team in the FBS playing against
nothing? They think nothing of this matchup in Eugene, Coulter.
What do people think of this matchup, and what do you think of just sort of the rise and fall, and then now potential resurrection with Bobby Hauck back in the fold at your alma mater?
Yeah, I'll start with that second one because I actually see a lot of parallels between kind of the Montana and Oregon programs. These were both teams that were the class of their conference for nearly a decade or so, and had a lot of success and kind of expected success, and that carried over not only from inside the program but to the fan base, and then it was just kind of taken away really quickly, and it's been. I think Oregon has been fortunate enough that this rebuild, quote unquote, has happened a little bit sooner than at Montana, but Oregon also has Phil Knight as a booster, so that helps a little bit. As for like the opinion of Montana from the folks here in Eugene, I think there's a lot of respect for the Grizz. You know, I over the years when FCS opponents have come in, you know, you do hear a lot of times that like, oh, you know, these teams haven't played in a stadium like this other than possibly Washington Grizzly Stadium, which, you know, I've been to a fair amount of FBS stadiums right now, and I would take Washington Grizzly Stadium up there with just about any one of them in terms of what the fans can do and the impact they can have on that game. You know, even talking with like Vernon Adams, he was like, man, that stadium was crazy. So I think Montana's reputation does kind of carry a little bit out here. I mean, obviously, I don't think Oregon thinks that Montana's going to be able to even, you know, carry their water in this game, nor really do I. But there's a lot of respect for a program that has been, you know, had that much success at the FCS level, and you know, you know, I'm not able to follow as closely as I did, obviously, when I covered the team, but it certainly seems like the Grizz have the pieces here to kind of start moving back up the ladder.
Tyson Alger, the athletic beat writer for the University of Oregon and a University of Montana alum, on this week's ESPN Roundtable. Tyson, this was great. Thanks so much for being with us, man.
Hey, thanks for having me on, guys. I've been wishing to get out to Missoula here for one of these games, and unfortunately, the paychecks for the Ducks to go out there is probably a little less than when Montana comes out this way. But,
it's a one-way street, isn't it?
Yeah, but man, I will tell you guys what though. Like that last point I hit on, Montana has something special in the level of play it has, and that stadium and environment kind of pride in the program. That's as rivaled as any other that I've seen at this level. It's just, you know, on a little bit of a smaller scale, but it's certainly something to be proud of.
No doubt. Thanks so much for being with us, buddy. We appreciate it.
Hey, thanks, guys.
There you go. Our ESPN Roundtable with Tyson Alger. It airs every Wednesday at noon on ESPN Radio, every Thursday at 5 on Two Tail Nuanez, and exists as part of the Big Sky Breakdown podcast series at SkylineSportsMT.com. And the ESPN Roundtable, Coulter, brought to us by our friends at Paradise Falls down on the south end of the city of Missoula.
3621 Brook Street. I was actually in there for lunch earlier today. Great venue. They got a brand new, I guess it would be the north side of the restaurant, all remodeled. The casino's all redone as well. It's a great place. You can sit out on the back deck, or you can sit on the north side and gamble, whatever you want. Paradise Falls got you covered. 18 draft beers. They rotate the taps all the time. 30 big screen TVs. They got ESPN3. They got ESPN Plus. They have SWX. They have all the different ways you might need to watch the game. They even have the Pac-12 network. So if you need a place to watch the game on Saturday when the Grizz take on the Oregon Ducks, head on down to Paradise Falls. Paradise Falls, open 7 a.m. to midnight, 3621 Brook Street, Missoula's coolest hotspot.
We'll take a quick break. We'll come back. We'll take a look at comparisons between Oregon and Montana as states. Have you thought about this yet? We got some interesting trivia for you, and yes, we will pull the last name out for the tickets to the Grizzly Oregon Duck football game, all coming up right after this. It's Two Tail Nuanez.
Hi there, it's Les Schwab Tires. You know, we've been helping keep folks safe on the road around here since 1952. That's why you can save up to $152 on a set of 4 select light truck and SUV tires during our fall tire sale. So swing by or book an appointment at leschwab.com. Les Schwab Tires, doing the right thing since 1952. Limited time offer while supplies last. Discount depends on tire size and type. Cannot be combined with other offers. Details at leschwab.com.
On Russell, across from the fairgrounds.
No matter how far you may go, there's always one just down the road. Town Pump, who pump it up, pump it up.
There's nothing that goes better together than a Johnsonville Big Dog and an ice-cold beer. Right now in the Town Pump Deli, Johnsonville Big Dogs are only $1.79. And Keystone 15 packs, $8.88. Town Pump, right down the road.
Town Pump, right down the road. Pump it up, oh yeah.
Mark your calendar for the 4th annual Selway Armory Tent Sale. The lowest prices of the year on guns, ammunition, and accessories, and massive amounts of ammo to stock up for the entire year. September 13th and 14th in the Lolo Shopping Center parking lot on Highway 93. Tons of ammo, guns, and other items at below-cost blowout prices. September 13th and 14th, 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. on Friday and 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Saturday. the 4th annual Selway Armory tent sale at the Lolo Shopping Center, Highway 93.
This is Mike Nugent with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services. Berkshire Hathaway provides Western Montana with full-time real estate professionals for you whenever you need us. Our reputation as the state's most knowledgeable and available real estate group has helped build unmatched trust in the Garden City and statewide. If you have been thinking of making a real estate move in the short or long term, give me a call. No pressure, no expectations. Just professional opinions and service at whatever pace you are comfortable with. Give me, Mike Nugent, a call today, 531-1802. And remember, every question is good to ask.
Do you want $3 beers?
You're crazy!
Of course you do. Who doesn't want a $3 beer? For $3 microbrews and much more, go check out one of the best late happy hours in town at Paradise Falls, Sunday through Thursday from 9 until 11. Paradise Falls has $3 microbrews along with $6 apps, $2 domestics, and more. If you're in the mood for an evening cocktail or you just want to grab a beer, go to 3621 Brook Street, Sunday through Thursday, 9 until 11 to enjoy the best late happy hour at Paradise Falls.
I'm not crazy, I'm just thirsty.
During International Suicide Prevention Week, September 8th through 15th, River Pines Horse Sanctuary invites the public to Horses for Hope, emotional strength training as a suicide prevention strategy, a well-being journey through the way of the horse. This workshop is an opportunity to learn important suicide prevention concepts through horse grooming, an activity that is known to boost oxytocin levels in the brain, lowering blood pressure, and fostering social connection responses. A limited number of appointments are available. Call 406-304-6433 to schedule yours today.
ESPN Missoula Sports Center.
Good afternoon, Ryan Tutel, Colton Nuanez, ESPN Sports Center. It's only week 3 of the high school football season, but crosstown rivalry action descends upon Missoula County Public Stadium already this Friday night. Missoula Hellgate and Missoula Big Sky, each coming off victories last week, will square off in the first Garden City rivalry game of the fall. The Knights won their season opener for the first time since 2000, drilling Billings Skyview 39-0 last weekend. Big Sky is also coming off a win. The Eagles outlasted number 5 Bozeman 21-18 in a victory of the powerhouse of this decade. Big Sky enters the game at 1-1. Hellgate is 1-0. Missoula Sentinel makes a trip north to take on Kalispell Flathead, who was last season's runner-up in Class AA. The Spartans are 2-0 on the year.
In the latest Treasure State media poll conducted by Anthony Knockreiner of KGEZ in Kalispell, Billings West, number 1 for the second straight week in Class AA. The defending state champs are 2-0 and have scored more than 40 points in each contest. Hamilton, number 1 in Class A, after receiving 19 first-place votes. The Fairfield Eagles, the defending Class B state champions, were the unanimous pick at the Class B level as number 1, and the Fairview Warriors are number 1 this week in Class C 8-man, also unanimous selection.
On the western side of the state, Montana teams in the Treasure State media poll include Sentinel at number 4 in Class AA, Frenchtown at number 4 in Class A, Missoula Loyola at 3 in Class B. Frenchtown plays Corvallis this Friday, while Whitehall takes on Loyola. We've been comparing the Montana Grizzlies to the Oregon Ducks all week long, but what we have not done is compared Montana to Oregon as a state. Well, let's do it now. It's Tutel and Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio, broadcasting live from the press box down here at 835 East Broadway Street. Come on down near the walking bridge, hanging out, enjoying a couple of cold ones with the group here. Come on down and have yourself one yourself and enjoy a little bit of food as well. The pizzas, the press box, unparalleled. You also can go ahead and get online. 1029ESPN.com. You can listen to the stream. The stream available all the time. It is there thanks to Opportunity Bank, your local bank, your opportunity. We're going to pull a name out of the box, give away tickets to the Grizzly Oregon Duck football game here coming up. But Coulter, we want to do a little comparison, a little analysis. What is the state of Oregon compared to the state of Montana? Now, we know Montanans, which you and I are, a very proud group, are we not?
Indeed.
If I'm understanding it correctly. Like to wave the flag, the state flag, the 41st state in the union. Did you know this, though, that Oregon is the 33rd state in the union? Now, as far as I'm concerned, an inconsequential number, 33. I mean, if you're getting into the 40s now, you're getting there on the tail end. 1889, right? Isn't that when Montana became a state? Took its spot in the union. Montana, the 4th largest state by land area, just slightly larger than Japan. Did you know that?
Bigger than Japan.
Bigger than Japan.
I would say it's way bigger than Japan. It's only slightly larger.
Japan is a country, Coulter. You can see it on the whole
Montana
globe.
is larger than a lot of countries.
Well,
Play the country
that is
game.
a fact.
You know every country in the entire world.
Yeah, we don't have.
He can name all 197 countries.
We don't have time. We don't have time to do it.
But he can't remember anybody's name.
Yes, I can, Alan. Now leave me alone. Oregon, by the way, the 9th largest state by land size, slightly bigger than the United Kingdom. How about that? Bigger than England is Oregon, but bigger than Japan is the state of Montana. Oregon, famous births in Oregon. Danny Ainge.
Okay.
Montana, Phil Jackson. Mm-hmm. Where are we at there?
Advantage?
Yeah.
Phil Jackson.
Okay. What? I mean, just not as an executive.
He's got 10 rings.
Just not as an executive.
Okay. Well, he's the greatest basketball coach in the history of mankind. So the Zen Master always wins.
Oregon is the leading producer of Christmas trees in America. Did you know that?
I did not know
Christmas trees. Montana has the most wheat used in beer.
I knew that for sure.
That one for sure. Oregon's the only state that has designs on both sides of its state flag. One side has a gold beaver on it, so it's like a two-sided flag for Oregon. Isn't that interesting? Because you know the green Oregon flag with the yellow in the middle, but then there's, I guess, a flip side to it, which I did not know. Would you like to take a stab at the state nut of Oregon?
I didn't even know there was such things as state nuts.
It is a hazelnut, is the state nut of Oregon.
Great. Does Montana have a state nut?
Not that I'm aware.
Are there any nuts that even grow in Montana?
It is illegal to fish with canned corn as bait in Oregon. So if you're going early and you want to fish the waters of Oregon, this is something you do need to be aware of.
I only agree to participate in these segments. I do not actually have any creative control in any of this.
Montana had the first woman elected to the U.S. Congress in 1916.
Jeanette Rankin?
Jeanette Rankin from Missoula. Very good. Excellently done.
I believe was the only representative to vote against World War II.
I think that's right. Or World War. Maybe
I believe it was World War II.
Okay.
She was a long tenured representative.
Last thing for you. Eugene. Now this might make you hate or make you love Eugene. I don't know. The first city in America to have one-way streets. How about that?
See, I like one-ways if they're entrenched. I like if people know how to use them, they're a great thing.
Right.
But if they don't know how to use them, though, or there's not infrastructure, bad.
Now, my guess is that we've all been victims of the new town, don't know where the sign is exactly, no reason. It appears that it would be a two-way street or a one-way street. You think it's a two-way. You turn down the thing and you go, well, why are you in my lane? And they're like, well, why are you in my lane? And then you look at the license plate, you're like, oh, you're from here. Probably I'm going the wrong way.
In the Koreatown part of San Francisco,
yeah,
I turned down the wrong one-way and went up a one-way for 2 full blocks until like an entire construction crew of Korean men jumped in front of my car and said, "You're going the wrong way.
You're gonna
wreck that beautiful car."
Wreck that beautiful car.
I was in a rental.
That's
brand new.
Of course you were. We'll take one last break. We'll come back. We'll preview Thursday Night Football, and we will pick a winner. It's ESPN Radio. Tutel Nuanez back right after this.
Katie O'Keefe's is revamped, remodeled, and ready to become your go-to sports bar in Missoula. Located in the Stevens Center, Katie O'Keefe's offers drink specials every night of the week, including mixed shots for $1 off every Monday Night Football. On Thursdays, pitchers of your favorite microbrews are $11. Saturdays, White Claws and Micros are $3. And Sunday, get premium double cocktails for $6. Whether you want to watch the Grizz, college football from around the country, or NFL from coast to coast, come to Katie O'Keefe's, Missoula's neighborhood football headquarters. Hey, everybody, here with my good friend Josh from the Advocates Injury Law Firm. Josh, if I've been in an accident, how much is it going to cost me to hire you?
Well, we take cases on a contingency fee. And what that means for you is that if you're hurt in an accident, we only get paid if you make a recovery. You'll never owe us anything out of pocket.
What about the call for a consultation?
That's not a problem. We don't charge anything for an initial consultation, so you have absolutely nothing to risk by calling us.
If you're injured in a car accident, call the Advocates, 640-4444, or online at montanaadvocates.com.
Have you been hurt or disabled? Are you missing time from work and not sure what to do? I'm attorney Chris Helmer, and Clark Fork Law Offices in Missoula is here to help. Our team specializes in worker compensation, personal injury, and Social Security disability. We fight for the benefits you deserve. Call Clark Fork Law at 728-0168 for a free consultation or visit clarkforklaw.com. Again, 728-0168.
Jayco and Rangish Brothers end-of-the-year clearance event is going on now. Our entire lot is on sale, so if you've been waiting for a smoking hot deal on fifth wheels, campers, toy haulers, and motorhomes, there is no better time to buy than now. Save big on a Jayco J-Flight Bunkhouse SLX with payments as low as $99 per month OAC. Or get huge savings on a 2019 Jayco Eagle fifth wheel, starting at only $28,750. Don't miss our final sales event of the year. Only where a handshake means something. Rangish Brothers RV Center.
It happens. You're positive you put your bank card back in your wallet, but the next time you need it, it's missing. Avoid the panic and take control with the MyCard app and debit card from Farmers State Bank. Our app lets you control your debit card and securely turn it off right from your phone. Safe, secure, instant. MyCard is available only at Farmers State Bank. Ask about it at any of our 9 locations or learn more at farmersebank.com. Farmers State Bank, member FDIC.
Are you interested in putting solar panels on your roof? Do you want the latest on Montana's renewable energy policies? The Montana Renewable Energy Association is a leading voice for renewable energy education and advocacy in Montana. From community-based clean energy events to advocating at the Montana legislature, they work to ensure Montana's future is powered by the sun, wind, and earth. Find out more about MREA and join as a member by visiting montanarenewables.org or calling 406-214-9405.
Tutel and Nuanez on 102.9 ESPN Radio for Missoula.
Gary Clark. When it all falls apart, Coulter will always have Gary Clark, won't we? Stated in the longest rainstorm in the history of western Montana. Lasted almost 7 full hours. It's a concert. We were at it together. You're
remember.
Looking at me like there's just nothing registering.
I black out for these shows.
I know you do. It's Tutel and Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. We are broadcasting live from the Press Box. The Press Box, 835 East Broadway in Missoula. Come on down. Enjoy some wings, great signature wings, great pizza, all the drinks that you could imagine. And they are the perfect spot also. If you're getting ready for Grizz game day, right across the street from the walking bridge, they are the official fan headquarters of Grizzly Athletics. We are broadcasting through the Kurtz Polaris studios. Kurtz Polaris is at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula, Highway 83 in Sealy, online at kurtzpolaris.com. If you missed anything in the show, check it out on the podcast. The podcast available on all your favorite podcasting platforms. It's the Tutel and Nuanez podcast. The podcast is available thanks to the Wingate by Wyndham Hotel. All right, Coulter, the time has come. We got one last name to pull out for a pair of tickets to the Grizzly Oregon Duck football game. Go ahead and stick your hand in there, pull it out. Let me know what we got. Who do we have here? The last winner here from the Press Box Sports Bar. Very well done. You did retrieve a name. Excellent.
I did.
Way to get your hand in there and pull one out.
Shout out to all the cheaters who put all the pads into the box.
Oh, yeah.
That's naughty of you.
Still about 150 names in there. Pretty good box full here.
Brandon Tate.
Brandon
is
Tate.
his name.
Congratulations.
We will call you. If you can get to Eugene quickly, we'll do it.
Oh, they'll make it. They'll make it.
We will do it.
Very good. Coulter, quickly here before we wrap up, the Thursday night football game, the Carolina Panthers against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I thought Tampa Bay was going to be better this year. It did not look good week one. The Carolina Panthers are a 7-point favorite, the over-under 49. Jameis Winston, is he going to be able to make it in the league? Because I think he's got this year and maybe less than that to figure it out. If you can't do it as the number 1 or 2 overall pick in the league with Bruce Arians as your head coach, you can't play here. And Jameis Winston is on the edge of that right now as far as I'm concerned.
I totally agree. And I think he has such an uphill battle because even if he takes a big step, I think he's still the 4th best quarterback in his own division. I don't think he can even be as good as Matt Ryan, even if he maximizes his potential this year. And he's certainly not catching Cam Newton. And even though Drew Brees is 40, Nobody's catching him still yet either.
Yeah, well, there's no doubt about that. Is he better than Blaine Gabbert, though? That's the question, because that's who comes in if he goes out.
Well, that's the thing, though. Sometimes you go with Blaine Gabbert so you can intentionally be bad. So that you can draft somebody to replace Jameis
You
Winston.
play to win the game,
Not
Colter.
throw sports. You play to manage
all.
the cap.
We'll see about that. Hey, boys and girls, thanks for spending the evening with us, the afternoon. We'll see you tomorrow. 2 till Nuanez ESPN Radio.
Put your cups up. If you getting paid up, put your cups up. If you getting paid up, put your cups up. If you getting paid up,
Check out code ESPN10 for a 10.
Come as you are and satisfy your craving with our home-style breakfast, lunch, and dinner at the Montana Club on Brooks and North Reserve, Missoula.
The big skies are open. Go wild with Opportunity Reward Checking. Go ahead, jump, dance, shout. Opportunity Reward Checking will make you do that. Go wild when you get your 1% cash back on qualified debit card purchases. It all starts with an Opportunity Reward Checking account from Opportunity Bank. Visit a branch today to get started. Then go wild and spend your 1% cash back however you want. Go wild with Reward Checking from Opportunity Bank. Some restrictions may apply. Member FDIC.
Here in Montana, we are lucky to have huckleberries growing high up in the mountains. Flowco brings them to you at each of our locations across western Montana with Huck Lemonade, Huck Smoothies, and yes, even a scoop of huckleberries on your morning oatmeal. Stop by for yours or go to FlorenceCoffeeCo.com.
the best flavor under the big sky. Florence Coffee Company.
Soft Landing Missoula, along with sponsors Imagination Brewing Company and Sweet Peaks Ice Cream, is hosting Missoula's 3rd annual Welcoming Week. In tandem with thousands of other organizations and communities nationwide, Soft Landing hopes to inspire and celebrate welcoming all people to the Missoula community. Highlights of this year's week will include an Eritrean coffee ceremony, an international soccer match, and a Middle Eastern dessert pop-up sale. For more info and a full calendar of events, please visit softlandingmissoula.org.
ESPN Radio for Western Montana, KKVU HD3 Stevensville, and 102.9 FM on K275BS Missoula.
I'm Steve Lennox. Buccaneers and Panthers about to open up week 2 of the NFL regular season tonight.